So you just signed up for your first half marathon. Now that's something to be excited about. Maybe you've run a 5K or a 10K distance in the past, but this is the first time that you've said, I want to run a little bit extra. I want to challenge myself at the half marathon distance. Well, I have a few tips for you on that journey and on constructing a training plan. So let's get started. Okay, the first tip I have for you is to buy yourself a good pair of running shoes. Before I ran my first race, I'd always bought my shoes at Payless, which was great, except for they usually wore out between 9 months to a year. And when I signed up for my first race, I knew I was going to be on my feet a lot, training so many miles, and so I went out and bought myself my first pair of Nikes. And honestly, when I went in the store, I didn't really know what I was looking for. I just went to one of the clerks there and asked, which shoes are good for long distance running? And they told me this section of shoes. So I picked up something kind of like this. And it provided enough support that I was able to get through training without getting any injuries. So that's what I would recommend to you. Not any particular brand, just a shoe with enough support that it'll help you through all of your training runs and the race day. The next tip I have for you is to build yourself a good training plan. Now you can Google this and find any number of sample training plans online, and I'll probably do a video later on that goes more in depth. But here are a few tips regarding that. First of all, your long run is the essential component of your training plan. That's the long run that you do on either Saturday or Sunday usually, if that's when you have most of your time, and you will steadily increase that over the course of your training. In the beginning, you might start that at about 3 miles, and you might work your way up to about 10 or 11 miles shortly before race day. Now keep in mind that you don't have to actually run a whole 13 miles in training. You can if you want, but a lot of people say that for your first half marathon, just getting up to about 10 or 11 miles and your longest training run is actually fine. On the race day, you'll be inspired to run the whole thing. Trust me. There'll be the crowds going wild, there'll be a lot of other people racing with you, and you'll make it those final 3 miles. But if you overtrain during your training period, you have a greater likelihood of getting injured. And that's really something you want to avoid. So that's another reason why people often say 10 or 11 miles is probably okay for that longest run. Another tip that's related to creating a training plan is that you need to stick to your training schedule. You will be tempted many times over the course of the training to skip a workout. And if you get injured, I would say that is a good idea. But if it's just you don't want to train because it's not very good weather outside, it's too hot, it's too cold, it's too rainy, I'm bored, I want to sleep in, those probably aren't very good ideas to miss a workout. You need those workouts in order to be on top of your game on race day. Now there are some things you can do in order to have better conditions while training. You could try waking up early in the morning and doing a run close to sunrise, or even having a run in the evening close to sunset when it's cooler. If you live in a place that's really cold, then layering a couple different jackets and some light gloves may be the best way to get through those workouts. But in any case, really try to stick to that training plan and it will pay off. The next tip I have for you as you begin training for your race is to learn how much water and food your body needs in order to do your training runs well. And this will really vary from person to person. For the water portion, you really need to strike a balance between hydrating enough and overhydrating. There's nothing worse than having water sloshing around in your stomach as you run. It really takes the fun out of it. But at the same time, you do need to be hydrated enough for your body to be fueled and keep going. So play with this during your training runs. Bring a water bottle along and test different levels of hydration until you find something that works for you. Then on race day, be sure to do the exact same thing that you did during those long training runs. Don't try anything new and mess with the formula. When it comes to food, you may be able to handle just a little bit of food before a workout, but I wouldn't recommend taking a big meal unless you're eating maybe 2 hours before your run. Usually for my part, I'll take about 1 granola bar or half a granola bar before I go for a run, and that's all I can handle. But you'll need to figure out over time what works for you. When it comes to race day and you're running an actual 13 miles, you probably will want more than a granola bar. But you'll also want to eat it quite a bit before the race. Maybe eat an hour before, 2 hours before, just to make sure that your body's begun processing that before you begin the race. The final tip I have for you guys today regarding your half marathon training is to consider signing up for some shorter length distances over the course of your half marathon training. You might sign up for a 5K race or a 10K race, and these race experiences can help you get used to the whole feeling of running with tons of other people so that when it comes to your half marathon race, it won't be that crazy. I did this when I was training for my first half marathon because I had never run a race before. And running a 5K around my college campus with a few friends was really helpful. It was my first time wearing a race bib. It was my first time going through an aid station and getting some water. And those are all unique parts of racing that you will experience on your half marathon race day. And they're not that complicated. You don't have to run another distance first, but it's one more thing to cross off your list and one more thing to feel comfortable with. So all you have to focus on during your half marathon is just running those 13 miles. Thank you all for joining me for tips on how to run your first half marathon. Be sure to like this video if you liked it, and also subscribe for more tips and tricks on how to run your best races. There'll be a lot more videos to come and you won't want to miss them. Bye guys.